goodness, there you are.
Amazing.
Wait, you can.
Saw you for a second, and then it says video ended. So I have no idea. And it said I had joined. So we're completely confused. Anyway, here we are.
Look, guys, Gaby, founder and CEO of Source Elements Group, founder of Human Better. This is what you do. You make people better. So
that's it.
This is all in your wheelhouse. All the stuff that we just went through is we set it up just for you to talk about what you do.
Resilience, baby. You keep going.
You keep going. You guys, we did not plan the chaos, but Human Better, this is what you do. You make people better and you help us get through these type of things, right? Without having moments.
Lots of breathing. Lots of breathing works.
So you guys, this is I know you're going to hear at the beginning of this podcast, you're going to hear a lot of chaos. And usually people ask me like, can you edit this out? Can you do this? No, I'm a one-man band. This is what we're here for. This is what Gaby's here for, to tell us what she does to make people better. This is the TERRAN LAMP SHOw, season number 10, episode 5. We've been going strong. I was telling them, Gaby, for in May, it'll be 5 years. Interviewed people like yourself from all over the world. Some people I've seen, some people I haven't. Everybody has an inspiring story. Everybody is working on making themselves better. And you yourself are working on not only just making yourself better, but making humans, all of us,
we're working
better
on it.
And like I said, we couldn't have set that up better. Just being resilient. Thank you guys for being patient with me. Please make sure you're going to check out this show. This show is going to be on both of our IGs. All of it. All of this stuff is going to be on our IGs. It's going to also be on YouTube. It's going to be on Spotify. And it's going to be on Apple Podcast. So you're going to be able to watch it in 2 different places, and you're going to be able to listen to it in 2 different places from around the world. So we really appreciate Miss Gaby Jordan being with us today, and we really appreciate everyone's patience. Whatever, like the cyberspace, whatever. So Gaby, tell us about making people better. Tell us about how that even came about. Like, how did you come up with this space of Source Elements Group and Human Better as something as a possibility for you?
Those 2 things reflect different arenas in which I traffic, both doing the same kind of work. So Source Elements Group is really focused on the organization, the corporate world, and then Human Better is in the education world. So I love actually being in both spaces because one provides something to the other. So when you're in the corporate world, it makes a difference to know that what you're doing is being taught in education. And we've been at over 80 different university schools around the world for the last almost 20 years.
Okay.
And, we started at MIT, went to NYU, created Empowering Women in Science, went to Stanford Business School, Stanford Med School, MIT, London School of Economics, kindergarten, New York City high schools, right? And all of that is about giving students, the future of our world, tools to which to operate and design, have lives that they love. Really, it's life design work. And it's really about giving people and students and adults the tools to actually figure out, how do you create a dream? How do you create a vision? How do you overcome the things that will inevitably get in your way, like cyber?
Yeah, right.
And then be able to do it with resourcefulness, resilience. And then in the corporate space, in addition to coaching people one-on-one, the work we do is building teams and building cultures and really transforming the workplace so that companies, organizations can be more effective. And then we do the same thing in organizations for education. And it really is about tools to have you be more effective in your life.
So how did you think before this, what was your thought process in saying, I want to kind of do this type of thing? Like, how did you get here? Because I think that it takes a special thought process and it takes a special kind of person to say, I'm not just gonna, think about it, I'm gonna do it. and then you've kind of put this process in place, and this, you found this to do this. So, you took the next step. I always say there's this taking action part that a lot of people miss. And so you took that action. What gave you the courage to kind of, or the wherewithal?
Let's be clear. It's not about, oh yeah, I woke up when I was 10 and decided I'm going to do this. It is not. It is, and I say this because I think for anybody who's watching or anybody who's going through life, there are different things you experience which take you to different places. So my background is I'm a lawyer. I practiced law for 15 years, a commercial civil litigator. Did I have a thought ever that I was going to be an executive coach and educator? No. So, I mean, if you want to take it way back, I was 8 and I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. And, for the great reasons that I love Perry Mason, which is dating me, right? I love Perry Mason, but I really wanted to defend the underdog. Right. So, by the way, there is a theme in that, right? So I wanted to defend the underdog. And so then I went off to law school. I went to Columbia Law School, which is how I got to New York. I then practiced law for 15 years. I left there and did something completely different in the business world with a company that was very much about happy people produce happy results. Again, the theme, right? Like caring about people, caring about having to be effective, caring about them, so that also because they knew this would enable their success, which I was like, oh, that's interesting to me, right? So I did that for 3.5 years. And then I was actually approached, and then I had started coaching while I was there. In fact, that's how I got to that company. I was leading workshops, I was leading seminars, I was training seminar leaders, all about transformational work, all about having people be more effective in their lives.
Yeah.
And then I was approached by 2 founders of an executive coaching company, and they asked me to join them. And I said, oh, you mean I could do this for a living, not just on a volunteer basis? I'm in, right?
Yeah.
So I went there, and when I got there, I was asked to lead the education division. And so I did that for a number of years. And then 3+ years ago, we started a nonprofit because we decided that the work that we do in education really is well placed in the nonprofit world. And so we continued the work, and we've, thousands and thousands of students, teachers, faculty, administration, but all because it's about how you get people to be happier. How do you get people to be proud of the work they do? How do you enable their success so they can go do great things, right? And so, I am not taking credit for it's my great idea, but it's the evolution. It's about seeing the things that you're presented with and saying, oh, what resonates with you? What actually pulls you forward? And that's how it happened.
I think that's great. You guys, this is the TERRAN LAMP Show, season number 10. We made it here with Gaby Jordan. She's talking about how she got to Human Better and social Source Elements Group. Yep, got it. Source Elements Group. And I think it's important, Gaby, for people to hear that, because I think that sometimes people think a lot of this stuff happens overnight. And if they don't have the answer right then they don't have the answer, right? So what I heard you say was it wasn't something, like you said, you didn't just wake up overnight. And I think it's important because lots of times we think in order to, we have something that we want to do. And if it doesn't happen fast enough, then we give up. Or then we don't know how to be like resilient, or we don't know how to seek resources, or we don't know how to, I think you said, you didn't say build a dream, use another word, but dream. Design your own dream.
Right.
And then how do you get there? And it doesn't happen overnight.
That's right.
Right.
And, one of the first high school classes that we led, at the end of the semester, I asked people what they got out of being there. And one student said, we're always taught to dream, but we're never told how to get there. And now I see that there's actually a pathway.
I'm writing that down. Pause, please.
Of course, which I love. It's so funny. My hat's off to anybody who teaches in high school, because you don't know if they're really paying attention. They're like on their phone when they're not supposed to be on the phone, right?
Yeah.
So when at the end of the semester, I asked that question, and one student said this, another student said, I'm working on my anger, and so is my boyfriend. And the boyfriend wasn't even in the class.
Mm-hmm.
So she was taking what she did and, going out into the world and using it. Another student said, I learned to stop lying to my mother. Another student said, I got better grades, right? All because they had tools. So we're not telling, oh, you need to do this, this, this. No, we're giving them tools on whatever your dream is. How do you want to bring it to fruition? What inspires you? And then how do you want to actually make it happen? So that's one thing. And then I will just share, if you will allow me. I got so moved today. I was talking to one of the other people who teaches, and she teaches in the lower grades. She's been teaching this one group of girls with some differences over the last 3 years. So they started in 6th grade, and now it's 3 years later, and they keep rolling over into next classes, and they're about to go into high school. And the transformation of these girls, what she was sharing today literally brought me to tears, because the girls are now saying, we are in 4 different friend groups. We never would have talked to each other had it not been for this class. They learned and they built safety. They had an accountability structure. They texted each other about, okay, keep a promise. It's going to make a difference to you. You're going to get that. Like, over the years, I've heard about the different things they're doing. And literally, when she shared about that today, what I heard was changing the complexion of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And if people have these tools, we can change how we relate to each other. We can change what we actually make happen in the world.
Yeah.
Through collaboration.
I think we can, right? We can change. I think that what also I got out of what you, okay, 2 things, a couple of things, a lot of things. What you said, what happened. I think we can also change like how we react, right?
Totally.
Like how, like just, we've talked about it, how we react to whatever happens, whatever comes our way. Stuff is going to happen. So it's how we react to it and how we keep going and how we resilience. And I wrote down this is going to, I think, be what I say for the show. I always put some sort of, I feel like I always get something that I put in the caption. And I love, we are always taught to dream, but we are never taught to get there, how to get there. And I love that, because it is true, right? We always start we're here, but again, it's like, how can we get there? And then I guess I ask you, the other question I want to ask you is, I'm sure people come to you and they say, I have this dream, I have this plan of how I was going to get there, and I was going to push start, and Gaby was going to be right here. But no, what are the obstacles you hear along this way? And how do you tell people, Gaby, like, you know what, keep pushing start. Yes. She's going to show up. Yes. You're going to show up. You both are going to show up at the same time. Yes. It's going to be okay. Yes. Because I'm assuming when you're designing this dream, you think to yourself, you don't think to yourself, there's going to be a million obstacles in your way, but they're going to come. So how do you work people into designing this dream that?
So one of the things that you need to know is that when we're little, we're really good at dreaming. I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be the president. I'm going to be a ballerina, right? Like, we don't think. I have a colleague in Vienna with whom I teach, and she said when she was young, her dream was to know all of the languages of the world. Now, she didn't think, oh gosh, that could be hard. That was not even in the purview, right? As we get older, we dumb down what we are willing to say and have, because we're fearful that we won't be able to get it.
I like that. And, well, I don't like it, but
but that's one of those things. There's a study done by George Lands. He studied kids, 1,500 kids, from when they were 5 years old until when they were 30, and incrementally their creativity, their willingness to dream, got smaller. So one of the things that we do is we just have people see, okay, what are obstacles to your getting there? There are things that you say to yourself in your head which disable your effectiveness. And there are things like, you're afraid, so we call that the mouse. I shouldn't have to, and you can't make me. We call that the tantruming toddler. Yeah. Well, life is hard. We call that the reporter. So when you start to recognize that you have those voices in your head, you can start to see the stuff that stops you. But we start with people, and this, by the way, we do this in the corporate world and in the educational world. We start with having people recognize themselves, what they have made happen because they said, this shall be. And in that moment, they weren't stopped. Yes, there were going to be all sorts of obstacles in the way, but they weren't stopped. And so I want to remind people that no, they have the power. They've done it. They've done it. They've done it. Now you just need to recognize what got in your way in the places where you don't feel so powerful, and then start taking steps incrementally. It's what you said about pressing the button and having it happen. We teach people tools for incremental change. So you can listen to James Clear, Atomic Habits, and he in there,
love that book.
Right, talks about incrementally taking steps. Change does happen in increments. It doesn't have to be, right? It doesn't have to be like that. And so that's an important thing to recognize, one foot in front of the other, seeing what the obstacles are, thank them for sharing, and put them to the side and say, I'm going after that thing that I said I wanted. And you don't have to do it alone, right? There are people who can support you that you can be with, to coach you, to assist you, to be a mentor, all of these things. And so sometimes people get stopped because it's too big for them. Don't do it alone. You don't have to. So
I love that, because I always ask people about obstacles, because I think that, we are so, want stuff to happen so fast, especially nowadays. We want, like I said, to push the button and everything to be right. And then sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. And you need to be flexible, or like you said, resilient. And I also think it's interesting what you said about when we're kids, that we have, we're dreaming all the time, right? And then as we get older, we find things that take away our ability to dream. And I think that's sad. No,
right? We get told no. We get told that's not possible by well-meaning adults, but not recognizing the impact, right? It's sort of having someone to figure out, okay, how am I going to get around this? What will I do instead?
So you guys, we're gonna, Gaby, if it's okay with you, we're gonna go just a little bit over 8, just because we started a little bit behind. But this is the TERRAN LAMP Show, guys. We have Gaby Jordan on, and she is sharing with us really how to be better humans. That's really what we're talking about here. This is season 10, episode 5. This is going to be on IG. This is also going to be on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So you can listen to it, or you can watch it on all platforms in its authenticity, if you will. And I tell people, Gaby, I don't know if I told you the story when we talked earlier, but I know I've told it before on the show, and you just mentioned something about being told no. So when I was a kid, I got all bad grades when I talked too much, because I talked too much. And so I used to my mom sent me this report card one time, and I had a S- when they used to give S- for talking too much. And so I always got that whatever. And now I tell people, now I get paid to talk.
Right, exactly.
And tell my story and inspire people, and my career. So I just think it's interesting what you've said about how for a long time I was a kid, and I thinking like, man, I ask questions. I tell my husband all the time, he's like, oh my gosh, you ask so many questions. I'm like, yeah, but I get paid to ask questions and talk. So that's what I do to get down to the bottom of whatever it is I'm trying to understand, and not be fearful to say a question. And then oftentimes when I say a question, someone says, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked that. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what? Why did you guys not say that? But for a long time, I had to get over that as a kid, is that, oh, you talk too much, became what I now do for a living. So which is, I think that's interesting, getting.
People have gifts, and sometimes they're not nurtured, and then they'll either come around, but it's a shame when they get suppressed, right? But there's so many different stories. Some people allowed themselves to be suppressed, and some didn't. And you didn't. In this case, you actually found using that gift to enable and empower what you were up to in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people I'm so blessed that I live each day like as who I am. Like the same TERRAN you see on my show is the same TERRAN you see everywhere in all the different facets of my life. And, meeting people like yourself, and, just enjoying the conversation, enjoying you inspiring other people, connecting with you, looking at your organization and things you have going on. I think it's just, it's just amazing to me how, we can not just me and you, but the world, right? Can connect if we're better humans,
Totally. And I will say, one of the things that we teach people in the corporate world when we're doing our corporate workshops and we are aligning teams is that we work with you, and not just in a group workshop, but also individuals, we work with you on your whole life, because what happens at work impacts you at home. What happens at home impacts you at work. So you being the same person in everywhere is your integration of the parts of yourself.
Yeah.
And to be your most powerful person. And that's valuable, because then you are fully, I like to say, congruent, right? Your reality, your actions, you're congruent. And that gives you power in really being able to stand in who you are and give that to the world.
Would you say, just in our final time here, would you say maybe one or two top tips for us to would you say be better humans or be incongruent? You said the word congruent. If you could tell someone, hey, these are a couple of things when we talk about human better, that you can do to help yourself, right?
So there's so much, right? Like, we didn't even get into like a thumbnail of all of the different things that we work with, but we really do have people start with that vision that they have and going after it and recognizing where they get stopped. But we also work about people's inner monologue, what goes on in their head.
Oh, yeah.
So there's recognizing the things that happen that are the obstacles to your success because you tell yourself those things.
Yes.
And so one of the things I would say is don't listen to things that are not empowering to your vision, to where you want to go.
Okay.
So that's one thing, right? And then remember that you have made things happen because you said you're going to make them happen. And you have that power. And all that happened in these other places is that you forgot that you were the designer in that instance. You created something. You were the painter. You were the architect. You were the creator that made something happen. So you really need to remember that you have that power, and you just haven't either given it the time or given it the application in this particular area of your life that you care about.
I love the fact that I'm the designer. I'm the architect of my own life, basically.
Exactly. You really are. And that's what's important for people to know. And by the way, that's the good and the bad. When things go well, you are. And then when things don't go well. And sometimes when things don't go well, it's more for inaction or what you ignored rather than what you're creating. And so then there's looking to see what's your own power in that. How are you the one who can own whatever happened, or not blame, but recognize, all right, how did I deal with those circumstances that was not as effective as I would have liked them to be? And what can I do differently next time?
Okay. As opposed to being, feeling guilty per se, right?
Right. Once I once heard that, guilt is it's just you making yourself wrong before someone else does.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I just think that's so easy for us to make ourselves feel guilty for lots of things.
Good. And what's it get you? Doesn't really help.
Yeah.
What does it actually get you? And so the point is, rather than feeling guilty, feel like, okay, what might I do differently? What could I do? Is there something I need to make amends for? Is there an apology that I owe? That's a whole other conversation. I love to talk about champion conversations, which are about being a champion in your life for yourself and another person and building a beautiful relationship. So that's a whole other.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have to have you back on. I mean, because I want to hear about because I feel like that's one of the things I'm kind of tasked with, is to be an advocate for myself and others. So I'd love to learn more about that. Just, I think about it just in my medical journey and being an advocate for myself, but I'm sure there's lots of different ways people are advocates for themselves and for other people. And I even, like I said, think about the show. I just think about how many people have and will continue to DM me and say, like, I heard this, 3 weeks after your show, I went and listened to it on Apple Podcasts, and I heard this one thing that someone said and how it inspired me. So I really, you know, just, I really think that that's kind of part of what I'm supposed to be doing,
Yes.
you know, if you will,
Yeah.
when I design.
You're bringing an avenue of communication and ideas to the world that somebody might not have had access to.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing.
And again, I don't have it all perfect yet, but I am learning, you know, as we all are, right? So we're 5 minutes over, Gaby, but I have to ask you this question.
Sure.
And everybody, so Gaby, I don't know if we talked about this either, but don't judge. I know you're not going to judge me, of all people. I save these cats in my backyard, and you know, I know. And you know what they say, curiosity in the cat. It's a whole nother show, Gaby. But the question that I end every show with is, what are you curious about?
I'm curious about what it's going to take for us to evolve this world that's currently in turmoil, and who we can be to be the best version of ourselves so that we can empower a beautiful world, because we got work to do.
We do, but you are doing it.
Working on it.
You are doing it. You're so powerful. I know people have told you that before. I know people, you have such it's like a calming, powerful voice at the same time. You're very calming, but yet you pack a punch. Do people tell you that?
Sometimes.
Yes, I'm like, man, like I could talk to you for another hour and just learn like what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, you know? But you're also very, you know, just calming and nice and all the things that people need to hear when you're designing this life for yourself. So I really admire what you're doing. I'm definitely going to keep in contact with you for sure. I'm going to call you after this, but I really just thank you so much for giving back to not only myself, but people that are going to listen, and all you do. You, you know, I feel like you were, I don't know if you felt like you were meant to do this, but to me, it's like whatever path you took to get here, I think it's amazing.
Thank you. And I just need to say that I'm honored to be here, and I'm honored to be with you, given your journey and given who you've been.
Thank you.
And given what you've had to go through. Many people would have given up, and you did not. You were a fierce stand, and you said, yeah, that.
Yeah.
Don't say it on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
I will not be having that. I'm going to be having my journey, and you used it. And so I am massively impressed and massively humbled and just appreciative that there are people like you and you on the planet to go do those things, because that's what we need.
Well, same back at you, because we're just trying, like you said, make this world a better place, right? One show at a time.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I will talk to you soon, guys.
Okay.
This is the TERRAN LAMP Show, Season 10, Episode 5. Again, make sure you check us out. This is going to be on all platforms oh, yes. Powerful and strong woman. Thank you so much. So Spotify, Apple Podcast, Instagram, and YouTube. You guys, this is the TERRAN LAMP Show. We're signing off. Season 10, Episode 5. Be good to yourself and each other. Until next time. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.